What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another week of NFL picks. Week two, obviously, pretty solid first weekend of the NFL season overall. Um, you know, so now we're on to week two. The ride has officially off and going. Um, Another great slate of games this week. Honestly, I would maybe even say we got some better and more intriguing games this week than we did week one. Um, which I mean, a lot of the times you don't see week two, but this year it's kind of different. There's some games I'm intrigued by. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So far, looking at where we are through 1 week, last week, obviously, first week of the year, I went 8-8, and I could have done obviously a lot better. And we're obviously some games that, obviously week one is always unpredictable. There's always games that go away they shouldn't. So yeah, 8-8, definitely room to improve on. Overall record, also 8-8 since we're only through 1 week. Lock of the week 1-0, and upset of the week 0-1. Starting off with Thursday night football, we do have the Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins from South Florida, from Miami Gardens on Thursday night. Getting started officially with Thursday night football on Prime. I really feel like that this is a game that you look at it, it could go either way. Bills could be competitive in this game, but I'm going to give this to the Dolphins. I think that, these Thursday night games typically do tend to favor home teams more times than not. Doesn't mean that the home team's always going to win, but typically they are favored in these scenarios. So I'm going to go ahead, going to give this one to the Dolphins. I think their offense comes out and takes care of business, does what they need to do. But Buffalo, they don't really, even though they have had solid history in Miami, I think with it being early in the year, Dolphins typically do start off fast at times. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this one to the Dolphins here. They start the season 2-0. Heading into our Sunday slate of games, we got the San Francisco 49ers, got the win on Monday Night Football, the defending NFC champions, going up to Minnesota to face the Vikings and, familiar face to them and Sam Darnold. This is a game that I really think you can look at as Minnesota does have the pieces on offense. Obviously, they did get a convincing win versus the Giants last week. I don't know how much that's really saying, but they did pick up a win versus the Giants. San Francisco, they pick up the win on Monday night versus the Jets. The 49ers, they don't typically have the best history in Minnesota. But I just think with the Vikings situation, and obviously, they did win last week, but it was against a god-awful Giants team. I got to go ahead, and I got to give the 49ers the win here. I think they're the pretty obvious pick. I think they're the better team, especially if McCaffrey is back, and obviously Jordan Mason really came on for them as well. Ayuk, he'll probably be more back into the groove. So I think that the 49ers are going to pick up the win here, go to 2-0 on the season. Next game we have here, about another battle of two 1-0 teams. The Seattle Seahawks heading up to Foxborough to take on the Patriots. Patriots obviously got an upsetting win in Cincinnati, a win not a lot of people really thought they were going to get. But they ended up pulling it out. Seattle getting a win over Denver to start the season last week. And whenever the Seahawks and Patriots get together every 4 years, it always feels like, the games come down to the wire. The last few times it has favored Seattle. And, even though the Patriots did have an impressive win last week, and I definitely outperformed expectations, I am going to go ahead. That should be flipped. I don't know why it says the Patriots are going to win that game, but I am picking Seattle in this game. Definitely going to have to make a note of that. But I am picking the Seahawks in this game. I don't know why it's flipped saying the Patriots are going to win, but I do think the Seahawks are going to win, go to 2-0 on the year. I do think they're the better team, even though I do think New England has been impressive so far. I do think the Seahawks are going to pull away with this one and go to 2-0 on the season. Next game we have here, NFC East matchup, the New York Giants taking on the Washington Commanders. And this is, and I got to go with Washington here. Even though Washington is obviously, there is stuff I believe you can really grow on. Jaden Daniels, even though they did get blown out by Tampa, he had a pretty solid game, whereas I just think the Giants are a total mess. So, and with it being their home opener also, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give the win to Washington. Next game we have here, the LA Chargers head to Charlotte to take on the Carolina Panthers, and it's probably, I mean, this one's another one that really speaks for itself. I don't think, the Chargers should really lose this game. The Panthers were off last week, and obviously they are coming home. The Chargers are making the trip across country, but with a team like the Panthers, I think this speaks for itself. I think the Chargers should get the win. Herbert gets going, and Derek Brown might be out for the season too. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pick the Chargers here in this game. Next game we have here, another battle of 1-0 teams. The Saints last week, obviously, their offense dominated versus Carolina. Dallas, their offense dominated versus Cleveland. Dallas's home opener, back in Jerry World. And it should definitely be an interesting game. 2 1-0 teams early in the season, teams that do feel good about themselves coming off of those wins. With it being in Dallas, though, I do have to go with the Cowboys here. I do think this is going to be an offensive game, though. I do think there could definitely be a lot of points up on the board. The Cowboys are going to come out and will get the win. We have here is the Colts versus the Packers. And obviously for the Packers, the big story is Jordan Love. He did go down, and he is, he's probably not playing this week. So it will be Malik Willis. It is in Green Bay, though, of some sort. But I just think, Green Bay and the uncertainty with quarterback play, I do think he got it. They had a pretty close game versus the Texans. I could definitely see them picking up the win here. Probably not going to be a very, very high-scoring game is what I estimate, but I could definitely see Indy getting the win here. Next game we have here, this was a tough one to pick. The Browns and Jaguars, obviously it's Jacksonville's home opener too. Got a lot of home openers here in week 2. This was a tough one to pick. Two teams that, suffered some tough losses in week 1. Obviously, you don't want to start the season 0-2, especially in the AFC. These are two teams that really are kind of, on the brink, of that playoff picture in the AFC. But with it being in Jacksonville, and Cleveland really in many ways looked like they had a lot of work to do. I gotta go ahead. I gotta give this one to the Jaguars here. They didn't look bad in Miami. It is their home opener. I'm gonna go ahead, give them. I do think it'll be a close game, but I'm gonna go ahead and give Jacksonville the win here. Next game we have here is a battle of two 0-1 teams, two teams that suffered disappointing losses in week one. The Jets, obviously, there were high hopes heading into San Francisco. They weren't able to pull that game out. The Titans, they had a lead in Chicago, and they couldn't pull through. So, obviously, two teams that, once again, I think we talk about in that AFC, you really don't want to fall too far behind early. And this is kind of, a must-have for both of these teams. And, it was really kind of tough picking an upset of the week. I think this is a game that, with how the Titans kind of are, you would maybe expect the Jets would win, even though I could see other people saying it's a 50-50 game. The Jets are favored in this game. I don't know how long that's going to stay intact, but I actually think Tennessee is going to pull this one out. And I'm going to say this is my upset of the week. I do think the Titans get the win here and drop the Jets to 0-2. Next game we have here, playoff rematch from last year. The line here versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who obviously they had a very impressive win last week versus Washington. Baker Mayfield having a mini on Sunday night last week. And, obviously this could be a really good game, but this also feels like a game that as long as the Lions come out and take care of business, do what they did last week, play that physical brand of football, this should be a game that they come out on top in. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this one to the Lions. I think they start the season 2-0. Bucks drop to 1-1. Just feels like it. And obviously that home field advantage also. Playing in Detroit obviously has become really, really tough. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one to the Lions. The Las Vegas Raiders heading up to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. And I don't think I really have to do much at all. I think the Ravens are going to come out probably a little pissed off from what happened in Kansas City, and they're going to be ready to go. They're going to be firing on all cylinders. I think that offense gets going early, and I don't think the Raiders really have an answer. So I'm going to go ahead and say Baltimore gets a pretty dominating win. I'm going to lock this in as my lock of the week, and going to give the Ravens the win here. Heading into the 4 o'clock, it's our only Fox 4 o'clock game of the week, I think. The LA Rams, rough loss in Detroit. The Cardinals, for Murray. I think in this game, I think you got to go with the Rams here, though, just because even though the Cardinals are at home, it's really hard to see the Rams dropping to 0-2 as long as everyone's saying. Maybe you can look at that and say that obviously can play a benefit to the Cardinals. They're going to have a chance. Next game we have here is obviously it is a match in Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes in Burrowhead, or whatever you want to call it, Arrowhead, obviously. But Joe Burrow's winning there, and he's gotten some key wins in there, especially that AFC Championship a few years ago. And this is honestly another tough one to predict. Cincinnati, I feel like if this was a little later in the year, I feel like you would give Cincinnati the edge in this one. With it being early, though, with Burrow still having to get back into the groove of things, still in many ways, the Not going to give the Chiefs this one here. I do think they're going to pull away in this one. It's probably going to be another Mahomes is obviously going to do his thing. So I'm going to go ahead, pick the Chiefs here to get the win and start out once again. Next game we have here in the Mile High, the Steelers on a Broncos team that did lose, but there could, Bo Nix, it was shaky, but there is definitely there's something to work with. There is a base there, I think, with him, and obviously you want him to grow off of it, and this is going to be a tough defense. And honestly, I would have to think, even though it is kind of, could be a Russ revenge game, I think honestly to do. And I think Pittsburgh's going to get the win. I think it's going to be another dominant defensive effort from them. Defense is going to do the job, and Pittsburgh's going to come out, pick up another pretty close defensive win here to start the season off 2-0. Sunday Night Football. This is a game I'm pretty excited for. Obviously, I see some people up and down about this game, but I'm pretty excited for this game. I am. We have the Chicago Bears at the Houston Texans. Caleb Williams, C.J. Stroud. A game that I think could be pretty good. I think, obviously, Caleb Williams, even though he did pass for under 100 yards last week in his debut, it obviously was not the most impressive game. You want to see him grow. C.J. Stroud, obviously, picking up that win in week 1 for the Texans. I am going to go ahead and say, I think with the Texans being at home, being the home team here, I am going to give them the win. And I do think it's going to be a pretty good game. I'm going to label this as my game of the week. I think this is the game to really look out for where, you could see some special moments in it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give the Texans here. And Monday night to end off the week, it is my Falcons last week, obviously, at the Philadelphia Eagles. And, listen, I'm going to talk about this game later in the week. I don't think the game versus Pittsburgh is really big. I don't see us going into Philly and beating the Eagles now. Weirdly enough, I feel like kind of because of the urgency of having to, I could see it a little bit more now. But still, it's going to be a tough task. It is a tall order, in my opinion. And I just think the Eagles, it's their home opener. And, it's in prime time. The energy obviously is going to be electric in Philadelphia. It's our first road game of the season. I'm not really liking the vibe of, this game. I don't think we're going to win. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope we can get the win here and we can get to 1-1 before coming back home versus the Chiefs. But listen, this is going to be a very tough game. And I'm going to, have to take the fan out of me, take my heart out of it, in this one, because I just don't see us winning this game. And I'm going to give the Eagles the win here, even though I hope I'm wrong, giving the Eagles the win. And with that being said, that is week 2 of the NFL picks. Obviously, y'all know what to do. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the post notification bell, and I will see you all in the next one.